A potential breakthrough in the search for a cure for HIV. For the second time, researchers have been able to use stem cell transplants to essentially cure a patient with HIV.
And the full findings are going to be presented right here in Seattle today. Of course, it's kind of more complicated than all this, so we brought in one of the leading experts in AIDS research in the country, based out of New York, Dr. Rowena Johnston, the VP and Director of Research at AMFAR, the Foundation for AIDS Research. You're here for the conference. We really appreciate you joining us on the heels of this big news. So everyone wants to know, what does this mean?
You know, we're really excited about this finding. I think it has the potential to really revolutionize how we think about curing HIV. This is a man we're referring to as the London patient who received a stem cell transplant, and just like the Berlin patient about 10 years ago, we are unable to find any HIV in his body.
So he received the stem cell transplant from a donor who had a genetic mutation.
That's right.
The idea was not to cure him of HIV, it was for cancer, right? Can you explain how that all happened?
Yeah, so this was the London patient was living with HIV and Hodgkin's lymphoma, and he needed to be treated with a stem cell transplant to treat his cancer. But his doctors in the case were smart enough to look for a donor who had this genetic mutation, because we have the precedent of the Berlin patient, and they wondered maybe if the same thing would come about. They were very fortunate to find a donor who had that genetic mutation. They did the transplant. The patient has now stopped taking antiretroviral therapy for 18 months, and we can't find any HIV in his body.
So now people will ask, well, how many donors have that specific type of gene mutation? Or can we take that man or woman's and just multiply it times 1,000,000 and case closed?
That's right. That would be great if we could do that. This is quite a rare genetic mutation. It's found only about 1% of Europeans, Northern Europeans. But what it might tell us is maybe a direction forward could be gene therapy. Maybe we could bring about this same genetic mutation using gene therapy, and then we have a lot more available to use for people all around the world.
Yeah, so it's not really realistic to think that this particular case is going to then, as you say, be able to multiply and for us to recreate this to be able to cure other patients.
Well, it's true, yeah. This stem cell transplant approach is really only going to be used in a small number of people who have HIV and cancer. But the amount of information we can learn from this case is really just mind-boggling. We have the Berlin patient who was only one person. There's only so much you can learn from one person. So if you have now two people, and in fact what AMFAR has put together is a research consortium where we have 40 people who have HIV and have received stem cell transplants, we're really optimistic that over the next few months and years, we're going to have a lot of these people, and once we can put all of that together, we can learn some really solid information about how we might cure HIV for people living all around the world.
But you're not calling this particular case a cure, that researchers have found a cure because of this case, right?
You know, that's one of the really challenging things about cure research. How do you know if somebody's cured? How do you know that there's zero of something in somebody's body? What we have to do is really wait a certain length of time, and we really don't even have enough precedent to know how long is the right length of time. The Berlin patient is 12 years out without having to take antiretroviral therapy, so we're really quite confident that he's cured. The London patient is 18 months out. Is that long enough? This is the kind of thing that time will tell. But it's also one of those things that we're going to learn exactly because AMFAR put together this research project, so that's the kind of thing that we can look at and see what we can learn about curing HIV.
And we know Seattle's been kind of a hub of AIDS research over the years, but is it just luck of the draw that we happen to be releasing the findings here in Seattle today?
Well, we are all at the Conference on Retroviruses and Opportunistic Infections, CROI, and that's taking place this year in Seattle. And so this is a gathering of all the leading researchers around the world working on HIV. And so this finding is being presented later today at the conference.
Pretty exciting, and we have a big part of it here.
Mm-hmm.
Doctor, thank you so much for joining us and on the cusp of this big news.
Yeah, Dr. Rowena Johnston, thank you very much.
Thank you.